Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about these new mini eyeshadow palettes from Too Faced. These are, of course, the Tickled Peach and Sugar Cookie palettes. Both are limited edition and both are retail priced at $26 US. The Tickled Peach palette is a Sephora exclusive, so you can only find this from Too Faced and Sephora. The Sugar Cookie palette is available from Ulta as well as other retailers that carry Too Faced like Nordstrom and Macy's. Both of these palettes have a lot of similarities, so hopefully this video will help you decide which one is right for you. Let's start with Tickled Peach. This is the Sephora exclusive. This does smell like the Sweet Peach palette. It's packaged very similarly to the Sweet Peach palette with the little raised peaches and their cute little Sweet Peach guy here. These mini palettes are the classic Too Faced packaging, just in mini size. So they do have the tin outer packaging, a magnetic closure, and a little mirror inside. The shade names are printed on the back. They are not printed next to the pans inside the palette. Of the 8 eyeshadows in the Tickled Peach palette, 3 of them are mattes and the rest are shimmers. The Sugar Cookie palette is the exact same size and shape. We have these little raised cookies on the front. Again, the shade names are printed on the back and are not present inside next to the pans. The Sugar Cookie palette has a sweet vanilla scent to it. The fragrance on this one seems a little bit less strong than the Tickled Peach palette to me. Inside, again, 8 eyeshadows, 3 of which are mattes. This lavender shade is a matte with glitter. The Tickled Peach palette does not have a matte with glitter shade. And then the 4 remaining shades are just regular metallic shimmers. Let's jump into the swatches now. I will be doing both finger and brush swatches of every shade in each palette. The shades will be swatched on the back of my hand with no primer down first, finger swatches on top, and then brush swatches below. For my brush swatches, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean the brush off in between each shade using my Veramona color switch. Let's start with Tickled Peach first. This is the top row of the Tickled Peach palette. First, we have this off-white matte shade called Peach Bum, a shimmery pink with a gold shift called Peachy Swear, a nice warm copper shimmer called Warm and Fuzzy, and then a deeper warm brown matte called Love Pit. Here's the bottom row of the Tickled Peach palette. Just a reminder, these are the finger swatches and these are the brush swatches. First up is a shimmery warm champagne called Parisian Peach, a warm-toned medium brown matte called Peach Spice, a shimmering peachy gold shade called Tickled, and lastly a deep shimmering purple called Plum Fun. Here's the top row of the Sugar Cookie palette. First we have a super bright icy white called Nom Nom, a matte cool tone brown called Milk and Cookies, this metallic maroon shade with a bunch of little purple micro glitters called Half Baked, and lastly a deep shimmering blackened purple also with little purple micro glitters. This one's called Tough Cookie. Here's the bottom row of the Sugar Cookie palette. First we have this very light cream colored matte called Butter and Love. Next, a pale bronze shimmer called Fresh from the Oven. This is the matte with glitters. It's a pale lavender with some little warm coppery sparkles in it. This one's called Cookie Pusher. And lastly, a cool toned dark brown matte called Burnt to a Crisp. Before we move on to the tutorials using these mini palettes, I want to show you some comparison swatches between the Tickled Peach palette and the Sweet Peach palette, as well as the Sugar Cookie and the Chocolate Bonbons palette, which is their cooler toned chocolate bar version. In general, I think that the Tickled Peach palette is more similar to shades in the Sweet Peach than the Sugar Cookie is to the Chocolate Bonbons palette shades. Overall, you probably don't need to have all 4 of these palettes, But I do think that these little mini palettes could be a great option if you either just haven't wanted to invest in those full-sized ones, all the shades didn't appeal to you, or if you've been wanting to try it but not wanting to take the plunge, since those larger palettes are $49, which is a lot to invest in a palette. So if you already own those larger palettes, then you probably don't need these little mini ones. But if you don't have the bigger palettes, these minis are a really great place to start. Now that you've seen all the swatches, let's jump into the 2 tutorials. I'm going to do one for each palette, and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm starting with the Tickled Peach palette first, and I'm just going to prime my eyes with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly. Then I set that eye base using this matte shade called Peach Bum. Next, I'm going to use Peach Spice for a nice warm transition shade, just blending that all through the crease and down onto the lid just a little bit, as well as putting that along my lower lash line with a small flat brush. Next, I'm going to use the shade Love Pit, this is another matte, to deepen up the outer part of my eye. And I did build this up a little bit slowly because I didn't want it to get too dark. Next, I'm going to use Parisian Peach, and I'm placing that all around my inner corner and onto the inner part of my lid. Then I'm going to finish off my lid with the shade Warm and Fuzzy applied to the center of the eye using my finger. Then I just curled my lashes and added some of my Physicians Formula Killer Curves mascara. And that's my finished look with this Tickled Peach palette. It's warm and sparkly and very, very peachy. Now let's move on to the Sugar Cookie palette. Again, I just primed my eyes with my MAC Painterly paint pot, and then I set that base using a matte cream colored shade called Butter and Love from the Sugar Cookie palette. For my transition shade, I'm using this cool toned brown called Milk and Cookies. Again, just all through the crease, not being too careful where I apply that, and I also use that shade along my lower lash line. Next, I'm going to use Burnt to a Crisp and build that up on the outer part of my eye using a small fluffy brush. Then I took Half Baked and applied that over top of that Burnt to a Crisp shade for some more depth and some more sparkle. Then I went to Fresh from the Oven and I used my finger to apply that over the rest of my eyelid, just blending it into that other deeper sparkly shade. Lastly, I applied Nom Nom with a small detail brush for a really bright inner corner highlight. Again, curled my lashes and added my Physicians Formula Killer Curves mascara, and that's the finished look for the Sugar Cookie palette. I know this is super neutral, it's a very basic kind of go-to look, but this is the kind of eyeshadow that I go back to time and time again. What do I think about these mini palettes? First of all, I think they are so freaking cute. Not only are they just adorable and a perfect fit into the Too Faced line, I really think that these mini palettes are more approachable for people who are overwhelmed by those full size, like chocolate bar size palettes. 8 shades is really manageable. You can't really screw up any of the color combinations here. If you don't already have Sweet Peach, then I think this Tickled Peach palette is really a great way to go. You're still gonna get those peachy looks. You still get the cute, sweet peachiness, the peach scent. It's just more compact, it's travel friendly, and it's just less overwhelming with only 8 shades. However, I find that my preference is more for the Sugar Cookie palette. I know that in both of these palettes we're just seeing mainly neutral shades. If you already have a lot of neutral shades in your collection, then you're probably not really eyeing these, and that's fine. I think that's part of the reason why I'm more drawn to this Sugar Cookie palette, because I do have a lot of warm neutrals, peachy, reddish, orangey shades. So the Tickled Peach palette, while it's adorable, the quality is great, it's just not really capturing my attention as much, because the Sugar Cookie palette tends to be more cool toned and more like really neutral. It's just the perfect companion palette if you have some really bright single shadows or even a colorful palette that you need some neutrals to pair with. This is really the perfect palette for that. I've been using both of these palettes for a little while now, and across the board, the shadow quality is really, really great. They're pigmented, but they're not so pigmented that they're like powdery and hard to control. These don't take a lot of work. They blend really nicely. I think that the Tickled Peach palette might even be more enjoyable for me to work with than my Sweet Peach palette. I find these shadows to be just a bit softer and a bit easier to blend. I really hope that you found the swatches and the comparisons helpful. Please leave a comment, let us know what you think about these palettes. Which one do you prefer? What are your favorite Too Faced palettes? Leave a comment and let us know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Things to find out before you film your video. True professional, folks. I get so excited with little cute things that I just can't talk. Mini palette dance, woo! Okay, bring it back in. Bring it back in. On to the words. The tutorials. I want to show you some compare swatches. I just made up my new word. It's a good word. Compare swatches. Help. I'm so scared. I'm about to do a bunch of lip swatches. I've been putting lip balm and lip oil on for like the past 48 hours in preparation. Let's do this. Yeah. Whoa. It's about to start raining. I can see that very clearly. Me no likey. Cold and rainy. Gross. Send help. Okay. Bye.